The challenge. The holo-projector flickered to life, casting an eerie blue glow across the dimly lit war room. Admiral Elena Vega stood rigid, her weathered face a mask of stoic determination, as she faced the grotesque visage of High Overlord Zarkon. The alien's multiple eyes blinked in discordant patterns, a testament to the vast biological differences between their species. "You have one solar cycle to surrender, humans." Zarkon's voice reverberated through the room, a cacophony of clicks and hisses barely translated by their most advanced AI. "Your pitiful defenses are no match for the might of the Zarkonian Empire. Submit, and you may yet serve a purpose in our grand design." Admiral Vega's fingers curled into fists at her sides, but her voice remained steady. "And if we refuse?" A sound like grinding glass emanated from the alien, their equivalent of laughter. "Then we will crush your civilization and harvest your world. Your species will be nothing more than a footnote in the annals of our glorious conquest." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the room in tense silence. Vega turned to face the assembled military and political leaders of Earth's United Defense Council. "Options," she demanded. General Zhang, head of Earth's combined military forces, stepped forward. "Our fleet is outnumbered 10-1. Ground defenses are formidable, but their energy weapons could lay waste to our cities from orbit. A conventional war." He shook his head grimly. "What about diplomacy?" asked Counselor Ameri, her voice tinged with desperation. Ambassador Liang sighed heavily. "The Zarkonians view diplomacy as weakness. Our allies in the Galactic Confederation are bound by non-intervention treaties. We're on our own." The room erupted into a cacophony of arguments and desperate suggestions. Admiral Vega raised her hand, silencing the chaos. "There must be a way. Humanity didn't come this far to roll over and die." A quiet voice spoke up from the back of the room. "What if we challenge them to single combat?" All eyes turned to the source, a lean, dark-skinned woman in a nondescript military uniform. Her insignia identified her as Captain Zara Okoro of Earth's Special Operations Command. "Explain," Vega commanded. Okoro stepped forward, her movements precise and controlled. "The Zarkonians pride themselves on their warrior culture. Their history is full of ritual combat to settle disputes. What if we challenge their leader to a duel? Winner takes all." A ripple of murmurs swept through the room. General Zhang frowned. "You're suggesting we bet the fate of our entire species on a single fight?" "Not just any fight," Okoro clarified. "A sniper duel. One shot, one kill. It plays to our strengths: human ingenuity, advanced optics, and precision marksmanship, areas where we still hold an edge." Ambassador Liang's eyes widened. "It's not without precedent. The Zarkonians have accepted such challenges from other species in the past, but the stakes have never been this high." Admiral Vega studied Okoro intently. "And I suppose you're volunteering for this mission, Captain?" Okoro met her gaze unflinchingly. "With all due respect, Admiral, I'm the best shot humanity has. Quite literally." The room fell silent as the weight of the proposal sank in. Vega turned to the holoprojector, pulling up Okoro's service record. The achievements listed were nothing short of extraordinary, sharpshooting records, impossible missions completed, commendations from a dozen worlds. "You understand what you're proposing?" Vega asked quietly. "The fate of our entire species would rest on your shoulders, on a single bullet." Okoro nodded solemnly. "Better odds than facing their armada, Admiral. And if I fail?" She paused, a flicker of emotion crossing her face before being swiftly suppressed. "At least humanity will go down fighting on our terms." General Zhang cleared his throat. "It's a long shot, but it might be our only shot. I say we do it." One by one, the other council members voiced their agreement, some reluctant, some eager, all aware of the desperate nature of their situation. Admiral Vega straightened, her decision made. "Very well. Captain Okoro, consider yourself assigned to Operation Longshot. You have 12 hours to prepare your challenge. Make it count. As the meeting adjourned, Okoro found herself alone with Admiral Vega. The older woman's stern facade softened slightly. Why you, Zara? Why volunteer for what's likely a suicide mission? Okoro's gaze drifted to the holo display, where images of Earth, gleaming cities, vast forests, teeming oceans, slowly rotated. Because someone has to, Admiral. And if humanity is going to bet everything on one shot. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. Well, it might as well be my shot. Vega nodded, a newfound respect in her eyes. Get some rest, Captain. Tomorrow, you carry the hopes of every man, woman, and child on Earth with you. As Okoro left the war room, her mind was already racing, formulating strategies and contingencies. She had 12 hours to prepare for the most important shot of her life, and the lives of billions. The challenge was set. Now, humanity's fate would be decided by one sniper, one bullet, and the audacity to challenge an empire. Preparations. The sun had barely crested the horizon when Captain Zora Okoro arrived at the high-security training facility nestled deep in the Rocky Mountains. Her breath misted in the crisp morning air as she approached the retinal scanner, granting her access to the compound. Inside, a team of Earth's brightest minds was already hard at work. Engineers, xenobiologists, and tactical specialists huddled around holographic displays, arguing in hushed tones. They fell silent as Okoro entered, all eyes turning to the woman whom now carried the fate of humanity on her shoulders. Dr. Amelia Chen, Earth's leading xenobiologist, stepped forward. Captain Okoro, we've been analyzing every scrap of data we have on Zarkonian physiology. Their bone structure is denser than ours, and their vital organs are, well, not where you'd expect. Okoro nodded, her face a mask of concentration. Show me. The three-dimensional hologram of a Zarkonian warrior sprang to life in the center of the room. Dr. Chen manipulated the image, peeling away layers to reveal the alien's internal structure. Their equivalent of a brain is here. Chen pointed to a location near the base of the spine. And they have 3 hearts, distributed throughout the torso. You'll need to hit all of them to ensure a kill. Okoro's eyes narrowed as she studied the hologram. Challenging, but not impossible. What about their armor? A gruff voice answered from behind her. That's where I come in. Okoro turned to see Master Sergeant Victor Petrov, Earth's foremost expert on advanced ballistics. He held up a sleek, matte black rifle that seemed to absorb the light around it. May I present the XM42 Ghostmaker, Petrov said with a hint of pride. Railgun technology, near-silent operation. The projectile is a self-guiding smart round with enough penetrating power to punch through Zarkonian battle armor. Okoro took the rifle, feeling its perfect balance. Impressive. But will it be enough? Petrov's face grew serious. That depends on you, Captain. This weapon will get the round where it needs to go. The rest is up to your skill. As Okoro familiarized herself with the new weapon, Ambassador Liang entered the room, his face a mixture of exhaustion and nervous energy. The Zarkonians have accepted our challenge, he announced. But there's a catch. The duel will take place on Nexus Prime. A murmur of concern rippled through the assembled team. Nexus Prime was a neutral trading hub, a massive space station at the crossroads of several galactic empires. Its atmosphere was barely breathable for humans, its gravity slightly higher than Earth's. That complicates things, Okoro mused. We'll need to adjust for the different atmospheric conditions, gravity, and security, added General Zhang, who had been silently observing from a corner. Nexus Prime will be crawling with Zarkonian sympathizers. Getting you to the shooting position undetected will be challenging. Okoro's lips thinned into a determined line. Then we'd better start planning. Every variable, every contingency. We have one shot at this. Literally. We can't afford any surprises. The next several hours passed in a blur of intense preparation. Okoro ran countless simulations in a gravity-adjusted chamber, fine-tuning her aim to account for Nexus Prime's conditions. She memorized the layout of the space station, planning multiple approach vectors to her designated firing position. As the day wore on, Okoro found herself alone on the outdoor range, taking practice shots at extreme distances. The Ghostmaker lived up to its name, each round finding its mark with eerie precision. "Impressive shooting," a voice called out. Okoro turned to see Admiral Vega approaching, her breath visible in the cooling evening air. "Thank you, Admiral," Okoro replied, lowering the rifle. "But hitting a stationary target is a far cry from what I'll face on Nexus Prime." Vega nodded, her eyes distant. "I've been in command for over 3 decades, Captain. Sent good men and women into battle more times than I care to count. But this," she trailed off, shaking her head. "Having second thoughts about the plan, ma'am?" Okoro asked quietly. "No," Vega said firmly. "It's our best shot, perhaps our only shot. I just wish—" She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I wish the fate of our species didn't rest on a single soldier." Okoro was silent for a moment, her gaze sweeping across the mountain range. "With all due respect, Admiral, it doesn't." Vega raised an eyebrow. "Oh, this mission, this shot, it's not just about me," Okoro explained. "It's about every scientist who developed this weapon, every analyst poring over intel, every diplomat working to buy us time. It's about the billions of people on Earth going about their lives, unaware that their future hangs in the balance." She turned to face Vega, her eyes blazing with quiet intensity. "I'm just the finger on the trigger. Humanity is the force behind the bullet." A slow smile spread across Vega's face. "Well said, Captain. I think I understand now why you were chosen for this mission." She straightened, her commanding presence reasserting itself. "Get some rest. Tomorrow, we make our move." As Vega walked away, Okoro turned back to the range. She raised the Ghostmaker once more, lining up a shot at a target so distant it was barely visible to the naked eye. She regulated her breathing, feeling her heartbeat slow. In her mind's eye, the target transformed into the monstrous visage of High Overlord Zarkon. Everything faded away. The chill mountain air, the weight of expectation, the fate of billions resting on her shoulders. There was only the rifle, the target, and the space in between. Okoro exhaled slowly and squeezed the trigger. The round streaked across the valley, silent and invisible. A moment later, the target disintegrated in a puff of vapor. One shot, one kill. As the echo of the impact rolled back across the mountains, Okoro allowed herself a small, grim smile. Tomorrow, the real challenge would begin. But for now, in this moment, she was ready. The fate of humanity awaited on Nexus Prime. The journey. The sleek diplomatic shuttle sliced through the inky void of space, its stealth systems rendering it nearly invisible against the backdrop of stars. Inside, Captain Zara Okoro sat motionless, her eyes closed in meditation. To any observer, she might have appeared calm, but beneath the surface, her mind raced through countless scenarios and contingencies. A gentle chime broke her concentration. "We're approaching the Nexus Prime security perimeter, Captain." The pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. "Ambassador Liang suggests you join him for the approach." Okoro's eyes snapped open. "Understood. On my way." She made her way to the shuttle's command center, where Ambassador Liang stood before a large view screen. The massive form of Nexus Prime loomed before them, a sprawling space station that resembled a metallic snowflake, its arms stretching out in every direction. "Magnificent, isn't it?" Liang mused. "A testament to what species can achieve when they work together. And now, it may be the stage for humanity's last stand." Okoro studied the station's layout, mentally matching it to the schematics she had memorized. "Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Ambassador. Any last-minute intel I should know about?" Liang's face grew serious. "Our operatives report increased Zarkonian activity in the lower levels. They're searching for something, or someone. They're looking for me, Okoro said flatly. They must suspect we'll try to scout the location beforehand. Agreed, which is why we're not going to do that. Liang smiled thinly. Sometimes, the best way to hide is in plain sight. Before Okoro could respond, a harsh voice crackled over the comm system. Terran vessel, this is Nexus Prime Control. State your business and prepare for inspection. Liang stepped forward, his diplomatic training evident in every smooth motion. This is Ambassador Chen Liang of Earth, accompanying Captain Zera Okoro for the sanctioned combat trial against High Overlord Zarkon. We request permission to dock and safe passage as guaranteed by the Galactic Confederation Charter, Article 7, Subsection C. There was a tense pause before the controller responded. Confirmed, Ambassador. Proceed to Docking Bay 17 Alpha. Be advised that any deviation from your assigned path will be considered a hostile act. As the shuttle glided towards its designated berth, Okoro felt a subtle shift in the artificial gravity. Is it just me, or does the gravity feel off? Liang nodded. Good catch. Nexus Prime maintains a gravity field slightly stronger than Earth standard. It's within acceptable limits for most species, but it could affect your shooting if you're not prepared. Okoro's mind raced, making mental adjustments to her calculations. Every tiny variable could mean the difference between success and failure, between humanity's survival and extinction. The docking procedure went smoothly, but as the airlock cycled open, Okoro's enhanced senses tingled with warning. Something wasn't right. A delegation awaited them in the docking bay. A mix of various alien species, all wearing the neutral gray of Nexus Prime's administrative staff. But Okoro's trained eye caught the subtle tells. The slightly too rigid postures, the hands that never strayed far from concealed weapons. Welcome to Nexus Prime. A tall, willowy alien stepped forward. Its skin shimmered with an opalescent sheen, and its voice was melodious yet unsettling. I am Sylith, Chief Administrator. We've prepared quarters for you in the diplomatic sector. Liang bowed slightly. Thank you for your hospitality, Chief Administrator. However, as per the terms of the combat trial, Captain Okoro must be allowed to proceed directly to the designated arena for equipment inspection and preparation. Sylith's multifaceted eyes flickered with what might have been annoyance. Of course. However, our security protocols dictate that all weapons must be. All terms were agreed upon in advance. Okoro interrupted, her voice firm. My equipment remains with me at all times. Any attempt to separate me from it will be considered a violation of the trial's conditions. A tense silence fell over the docking bay. Okoro could feel the barely concealed hostility radiating from several members of the welcoming committee. Her hand inched closer to the concealed sidearm beneath her diplomatic attire. Just as the situation seemed ready to explode, a new voice boomed across the bay. Well, well. If it isn't the little human who thinks she can challenge the might of the Zarkonian Empire. All heads turned to see a massive, hulking figure stride into view. High Overlord Zarkon was even more imposing in person, easily 3 meters tall, his iridescent scales gleaming under the bay's harsh lights. Multiple arms, each ending in wickedly sharp claws, flexed menacingly. Okoro stepped forward, her face an impassive mask. High Overlord, I trust you're prepared to honor the terms of our agreement. Zarkon's mandibles clicked in what passed for a Zarkonian smile. Oh, I look forward to it, little one. It's been too long since I've had the pleasure of personally ending a species' feudal resistance. He leaned in close, his alien features inches from Okoro's face. She could smell his hot, acrid breath as he spoke. Run along now. Prepare yourself. When the time comes, I will savor your defeat and the despair on your face as you realize you've doomed your entire race. Without waiting for a response, Zarkon turned and strode away, his entourage scrambling to keep up. Liang let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Well, that was informative. Okoro finished, her eyes never leaving Zarkon's retreating form. Did you see how he moved? the way his left side lagged slightly. The ambassador blinked in surprise. No, I didn't notice anything. Okoro allowed herself a small, grim smile. He's favoring his right side. An old injury, perhaps. It's not much, but it's something we can use. As they were escorted to the arena preparation area, Okoro's mind was already racing, incorporating this new information into her plan. Every detail, every tiny advantage could make the difference. The corridors of Nexus Prime bustled with activity, beings from 100 different worlds going about their business, unaware of the pivotal moment about to unfold in their midst. Okoro caught snippets of conversation in a dozen languages, her translator struggling to keep up. Heard the humans are making their last stand. Betting pools are going crazy. Odds are 100 to 1 against the Terran. Why even bother? The Zarkonians always win. Okoro tuned out the chatter, focusing inward. In a few short hours, she would face the greatest challenge of her life, with the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. As they reached the preparation room, Ambassador Liang placed a hand on her shoulder. Captain, good luck. We're all counting on you. Okoro nodded solemnly. Thank you, Ambassador, but luck won't have anything to do with it. She stepped into the room, the door hissing shut behind her. The Ghostmaker rifle lay waiting in its case, along with the rest of her specialized gear. Okoro began her meticulous pre-mission routine, each action practiced and precise. Outside, the station hummed with anticipation. Dignitaries from across the galaxy were gathering to witness the spectacle. Bets were placed, alliances whispered, and fates balanced on a knife's edge. In a few hours, a single shot would decide the future of an entire species. The countdown to destiny had begun. The battle begins. The arena of Nexus Prime was a marvel of engineering. A massive biodome suspended in the void of space, offering a breathtaking 360-degree view of the surrounding starfield. Today, its usual serene atmosphere was charged with tension as beings from across the galaxy filled the stands, eager to witness the duel that would decide the fate of humanity. Captain Zara Okoro stood at the edge of the arena's staging area, her eyes closed as she took slow, measured breaths. The Ghostmaker rifle was a comforting weight in her hands, its advanced systems humming softly as they calibrated to the local conditions. A gentle touch on her arm broke her concentration. She turned to see Dr. Amelia Chen, the xenobiologist who had been crucial in preparing her for this moment. Final systems check is green, Chen reported, her voice low and tense. The targeting system has been adjusted for Nexus Prime's gravity and atmospheric conditions. But Zara, she hesitated, then continued, the Zarkonians have chosen an unconventional battlefield. Okoro's eyes narrowed. Show me. Chen activated a holographic display, revealing a three-dimensional map of the arena. What Okoro saw made her blood run cold. The battlefield was a labyrinth, a sprawling maze of twisting corridors, elevated platforms, and treacherous pitfalls. Holographic projectors scattered throughout promised to create illusory terrain, further complicating navigation and sightlines. They're turning this into a hunt, Okoro muttered, her mind racing to adapt her strategy. Chen nodded grimly. It gets worse. They've seeded the arena with xenoflora from a dozen different worlds. Some of it is harmless, but others, she shuddered. Let's just say you'll want to watch where you step. Before Okoro could respond, a booming voice echoed across the arena. Esteemed guests of Nexus Prime, the moment you've all been waiting for has arrived. The announcer, a multi-limbed being with iridescent skin, floated to the center of the arena. On one side, we have High Overlord Zarkon of the mighty Zarkonian Empire, undefeated in ritual combat for over 3 centuries. A deafening roar went up from one side of the stands as Zarkon emerged, resplendent in gleaming battle armor. He raised his arms in a gesture of triumph, soaking in the adulation. And his challenger, the announcer continued, a note of skepticism creeping into his voice, representing the humans of Earth, Captain Zara Okoro. The response was decidedly more muted as Okoro stepped into view. She ignored the whispers and stares, her focus absolute as she surveyed the battlefield before her. "The rules are simple," the announcer declared. "The duel ends when one combatant is killed or surrenders. No outside interference is permitted. The stakes: the fate of humanity and its claim to independence in the galactic community." A hush fell over the arena as the two combatants faced each other across the battlefield. Zarkon's multiple eyes blinked in discordant patterns, his mandibles clicking in what Okoro recognized as anticipation. "Last chance to surrender, little human," Zarkon's voice boomed across the arena. "I promise to make your species' enslavement relatively painless." Okoro's response was cold and precise. "The only one who'll be surrendering today is you, Overlord. That is, if you survive long enough to do so." A ripple of shocked murmurs ran through the crowd at her audacity. Zarkon's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Very well. Your defiance will make your defeat all the sweeter." The announcer raised his arms. "Combatants, take your positions. The duel begins in 3, 2, 1. A piercing tone rang out, and chaos erupted. Zarkon moved with shocking speed for his size, diving for cover behind a nearby boulder. Okoro was already in motion, sprinting towards an elevated platform that would give her a better vantage point. As she ran, the arena came alive around her. Holographic projectors flickered to life, creating illusory terrain that shimmered and shifted. What looked like solid ground one moment might reveal itself to be a pitfall the next. Okoro's enhanced senses and rigorous training served her well as she navigated the treacherous landscape. She vaulted over a patch of writhing vines, narrowly avoiding their poisonous barbs. A quick roll brought her behind an outcropping of rocks, just as an energy blast from Zarkon's weapon sizzled past her head. "You can't hide forever, human." Zarkon's voice echoed through the arena. "Come out and face your doom." Okoro ignored the taunt, her mind racing as she analyzed the battlefield. The constantly shifting terrain made it impossible to plan too far ahead. She would need to rely on instinct, training, and split-second decision-making. A movement caught her eye, a flash of scales in her peripheral vision. She pivoted, bringing the Ghostmaker to bear, but it was only a holographic projection. The image of Zarkon shimmered and vanished, leaving Okoro exposed. The real Zarkon capitalized on her momentary distraction, unleashing a barrage of energy blasts that forced Okoro to scramble for new cover. She dove behind a fallen tree, feeling the heat of near misses singing her combat suit. As she caught her breath, Okoro's hand brushed against the bark of the tree. She froze, remembering Dr. Chen's warning about the alien flora. This particular species was known for its explosive sap, a fact that might just turn the tables in her favor. With practiced efficiency, Okoro set a small charge from her combat kit. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for what came next. In one fluid motion, she burst from cover, sprinting across open ground. Zarkon's triumphant roar echoed as he unleashed another volley of energy blasts. Okoro zigzagged, the shots coming closer with each passing second. Just as it seemed Zarkon would land a killing blow, Okoro triggered the charge. The fallen tree exploded in a spectacular fireball, its volatile sap amplifying the blast far beyond what anyone expected. The shockwave sent Okoro flying, but she tucked and rolled, coming up in a defensive crouch. Zarkon was not so fortunate. The explosion caught him off guard, slamming him against a rocky outcropping. His armor smoked and sparked, clearly damaged by the blast. The crowd erupted in a frenzy of shouts and cheers. No one had expected the human to land such a decisive blow so early in the contest. Okoro allowed herself a grim smile as she melted back into the cover of the arena's shifting landscape. First blood had been drawn, but the battle was far from over. As the smoke cleared, Zarkon's enraged roar shook the very foundations of the arena. "You'll pay for that, human. I'll mount your head on my throne as a warning to all who dare defy the Empire." Okoro tuned out the threats, focusing on her next move. She had surprised Zarkon once, But he would be warier now. The element of surprise was gone. From here on out, it would be a battle of skill, wits, and endurance. As she navigated through a patch of swirling mist, Okoro's mind raced through the possibilities. The Ghostmaker was a precision weapon, designed for a single, perfect shot. But in this chaotic arena, finding that perfect moment seemed increasingly unlikely. A rustle of movement to her left. Okoro spun, rifle at the ready, only to find herself face to face with a holographic projection of Earth. The blue and green orb hung in the air, so realistic she could almost imagine she was home. The projection flickered, replaced by images of cheering crowds in cities across the globe. Humans of all ages and backgrounds, united in their hope and support for their champion. Okoro's jaw tightened. This wasn't just about her anymore. The fate of every person on that blue marble rested on her shoulders. With renewed determination, she pressed on. The battle was far from over, and humanity's future hung in the balance. One shot, one empire. The arena had become a war zone. Smoke billowed from patches of burning xenoflora, while holographic projectors sputtered and died, their delicate circuitry damaged in the crossfire. The once pristine battlefield was now scared and broken, a testament to the ferocity of the duel unfolding within. Captain Zara Okoro crouched behind a fallen pillar, her breath coming in short, controlled bursts. The Ghostmaker rifle felt heavier now, after hours of constant movement and tension. A quick glance at her suit's chronometer confirmed what her aching muscles already knew. The battle had been raging for over 6 hours. Across the arena, High Overlord Zarkon's enraged roars had given way to labored breathing. His once gleaming armor was dented and scorched, evidence of the numerous close calls he'd survived. But still, the Zarkonian leader pressed on, driven by pride and the absolute certainty of his species' superiority. Okoro allowed herself a grim smile. For all his bluster, Zarkon was mortal. He could be wounded, could be tired, and therefore could be defeated. A sudden movement caught her eye. Okoro raised the Ghostmaker, its advanced targeting system instantly compensating for the arena's shifting gravity. But it was another hologram, this time showing scenes of destruction on Earth, cities in flames, alien warships darkening the skies. "This is the fate that awaits your world, human." Zarkon's voice boomed across the arena. "Surrender now, and I may yet show mercy." Okoro's jaw tightened. She knew it was a psychological ploy, but the images struck deep. Everything she was fighting for, everyone she had sworn to protect, all of it could be lost if she failed here. With a deep breath, Okoro centered herself. She recalled Admiral Vega's words from what felt like a lifetime ago. "You're not just a soldier, Okoro. You're the embodiment of humanity's will to survive." Stealing her resolve, Okoro made her move. She sprinted from cover, using the Ghostmaker's advanced scope to survey the battlefield as she ran. The arena's shifting terrain had settled into a new configuration, one that might just give her the advantage she needed. Zarkon, sensing the change in his opponent's tactics, emerged from his hiding spot. His multiple arms brandished an array of deadly weapons, each capable of ending the duel in an instant. "Face me, human," he bellowed. "Let us end this farce." Okoro didn't respond. Instead, she executed a series of precise jumps and slides, making her way to higher ground. Pulse blasts from Zarkon's weapons sizzled past her, close enough that she could feel the heat on her skin. As she reached the top of a rocky outcropping, Okoro allowed herself a moment of hope. This vantage point gave her a clear view of most of the arena, if she could just get Zarkon in her sights for a few seconds. But the Zarkonian leader was too canny for that. He kept to the shadows, using the remnants of the holographic terrain to obscure his movements. Okoro tracked him through the scope, waiting for her moment. Suddenly, the ground beneath her feet began to tremble. Okoro's eyes widened in realization. Zarkon wasn't hiding. He was tunneling. With a thunderous crash, the outcropping collapsed. Okoro leaped clear, but the fall knocked the wind from her lungs. The Ghostmaker slipped from her grasp, skittering across the arena floor. Before she could recover, a massive hand closed around her throat. Zarkon lifted her off the ground, his alien features twisted in a triumphant snarl. "Did you really think you could defeat me, little human?" he hissed. "I've conquered worlds you couldn't even imagine. Your species is nothing but a speck of dust in the vastness of our empire." Okoro struggled in his grasp, her vision beginning to darken at the edges. Her hand fumbled at her belt, searching for anything that might give her an edge. Zarkon leaned in close, his hot breath washing over her face. "Your defeat will be remembered for generations. The day humanity learned its true place in the galaxy." In that moment, time seemed to slow. Okoro's hand closed around a small object on her belt, a miniature holoprojector, loaded with tactical data about Zarkonian physiology. With the last of her strength, she activated it. The burst of light erupted between them. To Zarkon, it would appear as random noise. But to Okoro's trained eye, it highlighted every weakness, every vulnerable point in the alien's anatomy, including one critical spot they had discovered in their research, a cluster of nerve endings at the base of the skull, unprotected by the Zarkonian's thick scales. With a move born of desperation and thousands of hours of training, Okoro drove her fist into that exact spot. The effect was immediate. Zarkon's grip loosened as his entire body spasmed. Okoro dropped to the ground, gasping for air. But there was no time to recover. She dove for the Ghostmaker, her hands closing around the familiar grip. Zarkon, shaking off the effects of the nerve strike, roared in fury. He charged forward, all pretense of strategy abandoned in his rage. Okoro brought the rifle up, the targeting system locking onto Zarkon's vitals. Time seemed to stretch, each heartbeat an eternity. She exhaled slowly, steadying her aim. One shot, one kill. The fate of humanity, balanced on a hair trigger. Okoro squeezed the trigger. The Ghostmaker lived up to its name. There was no muzzle flash, no thunderous report, just a whisper of displaced air as the hypervelocity round streaked across the arena. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Zarkon continued his charge, mandibles spread wide in a victorious roar. Then, mid-stride, he stumbled. The roar turned into a gurgle. The mighty Zarkonian leader took one more step, then collapsed to the arena floor. A deathly silence fell over the gathered crowd. No one could quite believe what they had just witnessed. Okoro approached her fallen opponent cautiously, Ghostmaker at the ready. But there was no need. The single round had done its job, finding its mark with lethal precision. High Overlord Zarkon, scourge of 100 worlds, terror of the galaxy, lay dead at the feet of a human sniper. The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. Then, from somewhere in the stands, a cheer erupted. It was quickly joined by another, then another, until the entire arena shook with the thunderous applause of 1,000 alien species. As the reality of her victory sank in, Okoro felt the weight of the past days, the pressure, the fear, the hopes of an entire species lift from her shoulders. She had done it. Humanity would survive. The next few hours passed in a blur. There were ceremonies and speeches, treaties to be signed and alliances to be forged. Earth's status as a free and independent world was confirmed, with guarantees of non-aggression from the major galactic powers. But for Okoro, one moment stood out above all others. As she prepared to board the shuttle that would take her home, Ambassador Liang approached, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "Captain," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "I don't know if you can ever truly understand what you've done for us. You didn't just save Earth. You've given humanity a future among the stars." Okoro nodded solemnly, the full weight of her actions finally sinking in. "I just did what any of us would have done, given the chance. We're not meant to be conquered or enslaved. We're meant to explore, to discover, to push the boundaries of what's possible." She turned to look out at the vast expanse of space, the countless stars twinkling with promise. This was just the beginning. Now, the real journey starts. As the shuttle lifted off from Nexus Prime, carrying Earth's triumphant champion home, a new chapter in human history began to unfold. The galaxy watched with a mixture of fear, respect, and curiosity, wondering what this upstart species would do next. For humanity had proven, beyond any doubt, that they were a force to be reckoned with. In the face of overwhelming odds, they had stood tall. With ingenuity, courage, and one perfect shot, they had carved out their place among the stars. The human era of galactic history had begun, and the universe would never be the same.